We are ending our marriage as of today. My husband, who has reached retirement age, said this to me as soon as he opened his mouth as he greeted me at the door. Wait, what's the joke? I've reached my limit. I can't live with a woman like you who has been a housewife for decades and is still full of flaws. I'm going to have to spend all my time with you starting tomorrow, and there's no way in hell I'm going to do that. Saying this, my husband threw an envelope at me. The envelope, which was supposed to contain his severance package, was empty. I won't give you a dime of my severance pay. If you understand, get your stuff together and get out of my house. My husband, without even looking at me, stormed into the house. I was stunned and looked inside the envelope and noticed a piece of paper inside. As soon as I pulled the paper out, I saw a sentence that caught my eye and I ran out of the house. Run away now. My name is Ava. I am a housewife who turned 55 this year. I live with her husband Daniel, who is retiring next month. We have a son. Until last year we lived with him, but when he started working full-time, he moved to a neighboring prefecture by himself. I am still sad to live apart from my son. But I guess I should be happy that it is a sign of his growth. That is why Daniel and I now live alone, but we rarely have time to spend together. Daniel is a workaholic, and even though he is close to retirement age, he is always working from early in the morning until almost the last train. Even on his days off, he stays in his room for some work. And I am often not at home either. Daniel has an older sister, 2 years older than him, but she is a very busy person, and I help her with the housework when I have time. She is also married and lives with her husband's mother, who is in need of nursing care. She is married and lives with her husband's mother, but she is in need of nursing care. I was very busy with my own household chores and taking care of my young son, but I could not leave my sister-in-law in need. She was soft-spoken and good-natured, and she always had something to thank me for or a word of appreciation for my efforts, so we had managed to get by. Now that my son has grown up and my sister-in-law's mother-in-law has passed away, I feel much more at ease than I did at one time. However, I still take care of her household chores on behalf of my busy sister-in-law. Daniel seems to take this situation for granted. He says that housework and nursing care are his wife's job. Daniel is usually serious and doesn't talk much, but he does complain about my cooking and cleaning. Hey Ava, the miso soup is as tasteless as ever. The simmered dishes over here are also badly cooked. You're a housewife, so you could at least do a better job of cooking, and you could do a better job of cleaning. When Daniel first got married, he was much gentler and calmer. But before I knew it, he had turned cold and unfriendly. At first, I thought he might be frustrated by the stress of his job, but it didn't seem to be the case, as he still had the same gentle demeanor he had always had toward his son. At any rate, I am worried that Daniel would become colder after his retirement. Then, one day, I headed to my sister-in-law's house as usual to do some housework. I have a duplicate key so that I can do the housework even if she is out. On that day, my sister-in-law was out on an errand, so in addition to housework, I was also told to stay till she comes back. When I arrived at my sister-in-law's house, I inserted my key into the front door. As usual, I walked up to the front door and headed straight for the living room. My sister-in-law's house is a 2-story building, and I heard some voices coming from the second floor. It seemed that my sister-in-law had not gone out yet. That was just fine. I hadn't decided what to have for dinner yet, so I decided to go upstairs and ask her for advice. With that in mind, I decided to head upstairs. Each time I went up the stairs, my sister-in-law's voice became louder. She sounded to be on the phone with someone. My sister-in-law was busy with her conversation and didn't seem to notice my arrival. And just as I was about to knock on my sister-in-law's door, I heard words I couldn't believe my ears. Yes, that girl is still deceiving me. How can I be so busy that I can't even do the housework when I don't even have a job? She really is insensitive, isn't she? Well, it's made things easier for me. Could he possibly be talking about me? A nasty sweat forms on my forehead. I thought it was a bad idea to stay here, so I left the house once, being careful not to make a sound. While I was sitting on a bench in a nearby park for a while, I saw my sister-in-law's car heading out toward the main street. It seems that she finally went out. But still, what my sister-in-law said earlier, was she really talking about me? She did not clearly say her name, but under the circumstances, she must have been referring to me. I probably should have asked my sister-in-law directly about it earlier, but I didn't have the courage to do so. Besides, would such a kind sister-in-law do such a terrible thing? In the end, I continued to take care of my sister-in-law's household chores after that day, feeling a bit confused. After a while, Daniel finally reached retirement age. I wanted to thank him for all the hard work he had put in over the years, so I prepared a sumptuous meal and waited for him to return home. Around 6 p.m., the intercom rang. I had no plans for anyone to visit me. I looked into the intercom monitor to make sure. Standing there was my sister-in-law. Sister-in-law? What's wrong? Ava, I actually wanted to celebrate Daniel's retirement with you. Am I bothering you? No, it's nothing like that. Daniel will be very happy to see you. Please come in. I hurried to unlock the front door. My sister-in-law was holding a large paper bag in her hand. I asked her, and it turned out that she had bought a cake for Daniel's retirement. I put the box in the refrigerator and waited for Daniel to come home. About an hour had passed while my sister-in-law and I chit-chatted. When my sister-in-law said he's late, I heard the front door open. As soon as he walked into the living room, my sister-in-law stood up. Daniel's eyes widened in surprise when he saw her. He had not expected to see his sister-in-law. Welcome home. Thank you for all your hard work until today. You worked really hard for so long. That's great. When I said something like that, Daniel let out a loud sigh and put his hand into the bag he was carrying. It was a brown envelope. Daniel did not respond to my words, but said to my sister-in-law that she was really here. Had she told Daniel that she was coming here today? Without changing her expression, my sister-in-law simply replied, "Yes, I came." Then Daniel gripped the envelope tightly and lifted it up. Then he shook the envelope and said, "We are ending our marriage as of today. I won't give you a penny of my severance pay, of course. So pack up your things and get out of my house." Daniel then raised the envelope and threw it at me. Hey, Daniel, what is this all of a sudden? We've been supporting each other for so long. Why a divorce after all this time? Daniel ignored my confusion and retreated to his room. Why on earth would he do that? I may not have been the greatest wife that Daniel wanted, but I certainly wasn't a terrible wife to be unilaterally thrown out like this. I couldn't stand still and sat down on the floor. Ava, are you all right? Wait here for a minute. I'll go talk to Daniel," my sister-in-law said with a kind smile and followed Daniel. What should I do now? Even if I leave this house, I will have to earn my own money. I've been a stay-at-home mom, and there is no place that would hire me. And what am I going to tell my son? I don't want a divorce in the first place. Has everything I've done in my life been a waste? My mind was whirling with all kinds of problems. At that moment, I suddenly saw the envelope that had been thrown at me. It seemed to have been held with great force and was crumpled around the middle. I somehow picked it up. It was not sealed. I thought there was nothing in it, but when I looked inside, I saw a piece of paper. Are you kidding me? Inside the paper were the words, "Run away now." It was in my husband's handwriting, no matter how many times I read it. Maybe something terrible is happening without my knowledge. Maybe that's why Daniel suddenly declared divorce. From that point on, my body moved before I could think. I packed my bag with the bare minimum of valuables and a change of clothes for the day and ran out of the house. A few days passed. After I left home, I went to my son's apartment in the next prefecture. My son was surprised at my sudden arrival, of course, but as soon as I explained the situation to him, he let me into his place. My son must have sensed something disturbing. I decided to do some housework instead of asking him to stay for a while. He said, "You can relax," but that was not the case. I hung the laundry and was about to open the front door to go grocery shopping. Then the door was knocked violently. I opened the door, thinking that they should have used the intercom. It was my sister-in-law who was there. Unlike her neat and beautiful outlook, her long hair was messy and she had no makeup on. And her expression was like a demon. Her eyes were lifted up and her mouth was twisted into a wide smile. "Who told you you can run away? You've been irresponsible leaving my housework to me. Besides, Daniel's severance pay is mine. Now sign the divorce papers." My sister-in-law came at me as soon as she saw my face. "I don't understand the situation at all. Please explain it to me." Explain? There is nothing to explain. Just do as you are told. Just like you have been doing. She sniffed and said. Just then she saw Daniel running up the stairs to her apartment. "Stop it. Don't push her any further." Daniel stood in front of my sister-in-law to protect me. Daniel then began to tell me what had happened. As I had heard by accident one day, my sister-in-law had been deceiving me for a long time. She told me that she was busy with volunteer cleanups and community activities, but in fact she was just playing around. And it was simply because she wanted to have fun, but also because I took her precious younger brother Daniel from her. Daniel was aware of this, but could not say anything. That's because he was greatly indebted to his sister for helping him pay for college. On top of that, she would get furious whenever he was nice to me, so he was always sarcastic with me as he was worried about what she would do to me. Looking back, Daniel's attitude changed when his sister-in-law and her family moved into a new house near ours. On the day of his retirement, my sister-in-law came to our house to make sure that Daniel would properly ask for a divorce and declare that he would not give me any of his retirement money. That's when I received that message, "Run away now." Daniel had heard in advance that my sister-in-law was coming to our house and had secretly warned me not to upset her. She wanted to get revenge on me for taking her precious brother away from her. Just as I was about to take the next step, Daniel came to my rescue, and her long-standing plan collapsed. The result was this attack. I guess they were no longer concerned about what they could do. My sister-in-law was staring at me with a red face, as if she was about to scream. This is unacceptable. I won't allow it. Huh? What's the matter with you now? You've been cooperating with me too, you know. You're just trying to make yourself look good, but it's not going to happen. My sister-in-law had a point. Daniel's attitude toward me had only served to aggravate my sister-in-law. If only he had been honest with me from the beginning, it wouldn't have been so complicated and messy. But it was you harassing me that got us into this mess in the first place. You know, I know you're planning to drag Daniel down at this point, but it's not going to work that way. As I said this, my sister-in-law took a step closer. What? Are you trying to come against me? I don't care what happens to you. My sister-in-law is very serious, but I would not let her do what she wanted any longer. I took a step toward to her, avoiding Daniel standing in front of me. I will not do any more housework at your house, and at least I will not get divorced at your request. We will decide what to do by ourselves. If you understand, please leave us already. The sister-in-law finally started screaming in a strange manner and kicking the stair railing and the walls of the apartment. I had no other choice at this point. I took my cell phone out of my pocket and pressed the buttons 911 so that my sister-in-law could see me. When my sister-in-law saw this, she gave me a simple, "This is not over" look and left in a hurry. I was then able to return to my former home from my son's apartment. When my son came home from work, I told him everything and apologized for being such a bad parent, and he told me that we were still family. I was so happy that those words brought tears to my eyes. My sister-in-law, while she was forcing me to do the housework, was having an affair, and her husband found out about it. The sister-in-law was counting on Daniel's retirement money to buy a lot of gifts for her affair partner. However, she could not get the money, and she borrowed money from many people to pay the bills. Her husband found out about the debt, and the affair was discovered. As a result, they got divorced, and she was kicked out of the house and moved in with the affair partner. However, she had no money and could not do housework, so she was abandoned by her partner and ended up living alone in a small apartment. So she has no option but do her own housework and earn her own living expenses. It must be painful for her, who has done neither of these things for many years. I never thought that my sister-in-law, who seemed so good-natured, would be such an extraordinary person. From now on, I would not be fooled by anyone's pretended kindness. Meanwhile, Daniel and I spent a lot of time talking. I don't think Daniel and I had discussed this enough in the past. That is why people like my sister-in-law took advantage of us. I felt bad about that, so I told him everything that I had not been able to tell him and everything that I had wanted him to hear. As a result of the discussion with my son, we decided to continue to live together as husband and wife. And in order to be physically away from my sister-in-law, we decided to move to a distant place using Daniel's severance pay. It is a little embarrassing at this age, but Daniel and I are living as if we were newlyweds in the new place. We sleep in the same bedroom, wake up at the same time, and go on dates. Both Daniel and I enjoyed ourselves, as if we were trying to take back the past. Daniel also started doing the cooking and cleaning for me. Apparently, he had always felt sorry for putting all the work on me. I loved the way he did his chores with his clumsy hands. It was never too late to start. From now on, I would do everything I had never been able to do before. I decided,